Cool. How's it going?
Going good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. What's been going on in your world?
You know, I've just been I've actually been doing a ton of projects and run them through this agentic loop, and I am just blown away by what you can do these days. It's like the last week I'd been working on, I was doing a lot of stuff with Maxim Monatzko's DAX MCP. And so
Hmm.
I thought, well, why don't I just write an M-code MCP? I'd never tried writing one before.
Hmm.
And I spent like 4 days on it. And it was really hard because Microsoft limits the access to the M-code interface in the way that, they don't with DAX. DAX has a straight API into the what
Into
do you
the
call it?
editor, into desktop, into desktop you can do
It's
it.
it's in the desktop, but it runs the what's the DAX engine
Um,
in the cloud?
yes, Vertipack.
No, but I'll think of it. But basically, you can get in pretty easily to it, and
Okay.
M code is different. And so I spent 4 days writing Azure functions for the first time, and I was going to run it through a data flow, and it ended up not working. And I went to
Hmm.
bed at like 2:30 one night,
Yeah.
woke up in the middle of the night, and I was like, I know how to do this. And I tried it and basically got it to work. And it it's now remarkable in the sense that you can just run, you can just basically give the LLM a target and say, okay, here's the code I want you to write, here's the target, and just keep
Yeah.
iterating until you get it. And it'll solve anything now. I mean,
So
I
you give it your original data and then you say, this is the shape of the data that I want. And then it will just continue to iterate. Wow.
it
It's
just
so cool.
continues to iterate, and then it checks the result, and then it basically writes a report on, it checks the data line by line, writes a report with the final code, the 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 stop conditions, a summary of what it did each loop through the process,
Mm.
and then it's kind of assessment of what it learned. And you can actually then take what it learned and put that back into the memory of Claude Code. it
Mm.
it is absolutely remarkable now. Like I was
Mm.
blown away, and I used the same thing. Plotly Studio was doing a hackathon that was due yesterday,
Yeah.
and I I did something using that same workflow, in terms of, it's a it's kind of an urban planning issue called 15-minute cities that I'm really interested in. It basically evaluates cities based on the percentage of people within 15-minute walk or 15-minute bike ride of kind of all the daily amenities, healthcare, grocery, um, recreation, cultural stuff.
Hmm.
And I literally did what I would consider to be weeks, if not months of work in a day. I mean, I can show you the workflow of what I did. It
Yeah.
just blew my mind at how fast, like Google, like Claude Code runs through things when you just give it the proper stop conditions. It is just blowing my mind. And it was funny.
Mm.
I talked to the Plotly folks today, and they've actually got it. They've got part of it already incorporated where you can now export your code from Plotly Studio. And so if they make it so you can import code, you can basically then, what we were talking about today is, you can basically run your entire BI visual layer from your IDE with just a mock-up of what you want it to be.
Hmm.
So you put your
Yeah.
data set in, you put a mock-up of your dashboard, and it'll just run until it it gets the code for that dashboard right.
Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, that's so crazy. So like out of like how long is it running for? Like on average, or like how long did you get it to run for?
I mean, so it really it depends, that for the M code, it's solving four-star problems in about 3 minutes with full reporting and validation.
Right,
Um, for the hackathon, I had some of it running for a couple of hours.
right.
Um, that it was doing like isochrones in spatial analysis where it would take every census tract
Mm,
in each of I did 16 cities, and it took every census tract and calculated how long to each type of point of interest from the
mm.
centroid of that census tract. And it's a very, you know, complex and calculation intensive thing. And there was one point when I just set it up to run and went to a movie. Um,
It reminds me of something I said. I said it last week, and I re-listened to one of our podcasts the other day. It's like the goal is to get out of the way, is to try and get out of the way of the AI or the machine. And this is what I constantly think. And I think you're like just making the point even more, in the way that in the task that you've been working on, you're making a really valid case for why that is true, right? Like you've got to try to find a way. It's the same in like if I'm trying to code an application. Whenever I'm sitting down and I'm trying to think of the next thing to do and the next thing to do, I'm just thinking, man, I just want to get out of the way here. I just want to set it up and get it to work it out. And that's it. I think that's going to become more of a skill, like a real skill. It's kind of like management, right? It's just like becoming a manager.
well, I mean, you had a post about validation, and I really want to pick up on that because it's
Mm,
the thing we've been talking about recently, which is one of the hardest thing. And Nate Jones in his video yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, he talked about kind of the skills you need, and one of the biggest ones he talked about was defining the stop condition.
mm,
That when he showed like the OpenAI, the new agent modeling that looks like N8N,
yeah,
um, that his whole thing was like the really hard thing in all this is to define when you're done.
yeah,
And when you can do that and set those conditions, it, it's now to the point where, yeah, you're right. It's like give it the data, give it the context, set the conditions, and get the hell out of the way.
yeah. Because you're slowing it down. You're slowing it down
Yeah.
every time you're jumping in. Um, Yeah, it's just so fascinating, isn't it? This has crept up on us so quickly, isn't it? The tools have been created this year. The features within the tools have been created, and the MCP layer is making a lot have underrated the importance of MCP, haven't they? The ability to combine lots of different tools all together to create this connected loop. It's all part of the puzzle, isn't it?
It is, and I haven't really had a chance to sit down and play with the OpenAI stuff from Dev Day yesterday, but what they've basically done is let you build your own apps with MCP incorporated right in. And
Yeah.
they've got like they showed one with Spotify, and I've been using the Spotify MCP for a few weeks now, and they've got it where you just literally you do at Spotify, and it pulls the MCP layer right into your LLM without doing anything. It just
Yeah.
literally you add it.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, what it can do is it can incorporate that into the calculations, and then it can actually blow it out when you're done to an app. Like it gives you like no more having to host it separately. Like you can actually host the app right within OpenAI, and that's where we've been talking about kind of where's the stickiness in
Yeah.
terms of keeping you within the platform. And when
Yeah.
you've got the ability to just crank apps like that and then host them right within the platform, that's going to keep you there.
Yeah. I'm kind of smiling because this is the thing. This is what has kind of just really annoyed me in the information warfare that has been out there for the last like year or so around how are these guys going to make money? How is OpenAI going to be profitable? How is Claude like these people just lack imagination. I'm telling you, they just lack
Yeah.
imagination because look at what they are doing. They are building there's a lot of people who are making money around AI, right? Like they are going to just start eating into those different categories. They can because they have all the users. Because I saw Lovable have done exactly the same. Exactly the same. They've launched Lovable Cloud. So you can build your app and then you don't have to connect up to Netlify. Then you don't have to connect up to, yeah, I can almost guarantee they're gonna like cut Superbase out soon. Like they'll directly connect into AWS or something like that. Like they'll
Well,
pick
did you
up
see
all of
where
this.
Google is now in bed with Lovable? That Google was offering free Lovable last weekend. Like
Right.
you could access Lovable straight
Yeah.
through, I think it was through the Google AI Studio.
Yeah. Um, right. Well, I didn't even see that. But like this is what, these I just have I just I've shaked my head at these articles and these comments and these are sometimes from quite well-respected people. I'm just like, these people lack imagination. Like if you have users and you have a whole lot of smart people, connected people working in an organization, you can usually find a way. Like you can usually find a way to monetize and grow and become bigger, like um, Google wasn't always this like behemoth that had all of these different arms making lots of money and then enabling them to create self-driving cars. Like you can, if you have users, like you can do a lot of stuff, and that's what Lovable has. Obviously, OpenAI has more users than anyone. Um, I saw an insane stat on I think I sent it to you actually on LinkedIn that Copilot has 2% of the market. So Microsoft, the biggest enterprise player in the world, only has 2% of the AI market. And OpenAI are just absolutely crushing them. And I've said this for like over a year now. I never, there's no stopping OpenAI. There is literally no stopping them. I think Copilot will still be a thing. I think they'll copy OpenAI as much as they need to, but um, coming back from there now is very, very difficult. And OpenAI just innovating so fast. Like they are always innovating. Everyone, as soon as someone thinks they're going slow, boom, new thing comes out. Sora 2 comes out. Agent mode comes out. Codex comes out. I mean, they're just unstoppable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I saw that same article about the market share, and if I remember right, it was like Copilot had like 2%, Claude had like 4%. And the funny thing is, in the bubble that I live in, like
Yeah.
everybody uses Claude Code,
Yeah,
and
I didn't know maybe Claude Code wasn't counted in that, but yeah. I mean, the average Joe is
no,
not
no,
using
but
Claude
it
Code.
was. I mean,
It
the
was? Oh, okay.
Anthropic like Claude, it had like a tiny percentage, and I
Yeah.
was floored by that because as I say, in my world, Claude Code is still at the top of the mountain in terms of, you know, tools for data analysis and visualization.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
I think
Not
Codex is
surprising.
getting,
That doesn't surprise me that much because Claude Code is very much for the developers. I mean, there's probably only like 10 to 20 million people using a Claude Code. Maybe less, maybe less. That's probably high. The average person is not using Claude Code, right? Like
right, right.
they're like no, none of my family are using Claude Code. They're all using ChatGPT though.
But I mean, it's funny because the people I talk to on like a daily basis now, like they're all, not all, but a lot of them are Claude Code users. And
Yeah.
it's funny because it's given me, when I saw that, I was like, wow, that was way less than I thought. And
Mm,
I mean, the funny thing is too that I've talked about how I've modified my LinkedIn feed, and now, you know, I only kind of rely on the notifications, but for ads, I've
mm.
basically kept saying all these ads annoy me. And so the only ads I get now are Claude Code. And so I'm
I
basically
don't even
talking
think
to
I've
people.
seen one. That's
Oh my
funny.
God, it's literally like I'll get 10 Claude Code ads in a row on LinkedIn now, and they're good ads. Um, they actually had a great ad the other day. It was like just kind of an
Oh,
orange square with the
yeah.
Claude Code logo, and it said, "There's never been a better time to have a problem." And
Yeah.
I just thought
Oh,
that's a
I saw
great
this.
ad.
I actually saw one on YouTube, I think, or somewhere, or maybe someone like reposted it. It was a beautiful ad. It was like a minute and a half, like um, sort of just talking about like world problems and like how you could solve this and how you could solve that and how you could solve that. I loved it. It's so true, so great. I mean, they have a lot of money for their marketing budget, so.
Yeah. But I mean, the interesting thing that really want to talk to you about was it was the for really the first time, like in my in my work, I've started really just building apps, and building my own MCP server. And then what I've been doing is I've been building all these little apps in Opal and in Claude artifacts to do the validation, to basically to do an independent validation to
Mm,
get me to a target point that I can give to my AI and say, okay, Claude, like here's the endpoint that I've calculated in JavaScript through this
mm,
separate app.
mm,
Now build me the code that gets to that endpoint.
mm,
And
mm,
in M and DAX and SQL. And you know, it's so useful. And it's like these people who kind of deride vibe coding. I'm not for these apps, with the exception of the MCP server, I'm not looking to do anything with them. I mean, they're kind of disposable in the
mm,
sense that I'm not looking to share them. I'm not looking to even use them again sometimes. I'm
mm,
just looking to have them be kind of quick, temporary, kind of fill the gap, give me what I need.
mm.
And for that, they're perfect for that.
Totally, totally. They're incredible for prototyping. I mean, yeah, I mean, I haven't seen as much as I once did, like maybe 6 months ago, 9 months ago. I mean, everyone like it just seemed like everyone was gatekeeping. I don't see that as much now because it's just so obvious. Like it's more obvious than what it was so obvious to me 12 months ago, but it's more obvious now. Like this is such a fundamental shift. I had a really actually just had breakfast with my dad this morning and he's done board stuff. He's still on a couple of boards, and he told me this really interesting story about he's on this electricity board, and they've been talking about building this like AI software with vision. They started in 2002, I think, and I was like, I was contrasting. I was sort of saying, man, in 2002, the shape of how that would have gone is so different to what it is now. Like you can build that for probably 10 times cheaper now, 10 times cheaper. And then I was just sort of saying, just think about that as in terms of like an acceleration, not only in that business, but any business, the world, like software is what created a lot of automation and optimizations within organizations, right? And that acceleration is just going to go faster and faster and faster. That was always my like macro vision when I saw, wow, the average person is going to be able to just whip up prototypes, get ideas out there. Every corner of the organization is going to be able to whip up some sort of thing, and there's going to be a whole lot more software that is developed throughout every business, throughout every part of the economy, and I think that's playing out. I think that's playing out. I mean, you can whip thing, you can build prototypes. You don't have to even take them further. You can just like build a prototype. If it is good, well then boom, you take it further. That iterative loop is just that, or that flywheel is so much faster now. And I think I mean, I've been saying this, I remember I said this last time, like the opportunity is just so vast. It's so vast throughout there's so many opportunities for everyone, really, I think, like for those who were analysts before, even to those who are developers, right? Like developers, there's going to be more work than ever for developers. I've always thought that.
It's so interesting in the sense that like you know for um for Claude Code, for example, like the one problem that app has right now is MCPs are a little bit wonky in terms of getting them set up. So I
Hmm.
was like, why don't I just build an app, that basically takes my Claude desktop MCP config and
Mm,
then develops a list of the MCPs that I've got loaded in that. And then I just select the ones I want. And what it does, it just spits out a .mcp.json file that
mm.
has those configured in the way that Claude Code wants, and it just sends it to me, and then I just drop that into Claude Code, and I'm done. It's
Yeah.
so easy. And it basically just wrote itself. I just told it what I told you, and it just wrote itself. It's just it
And that's just a personal acceleration, isn't it?
yeah.
Personal photos. I really love it. These are the little opportunities that I'm actually now looking for with enterprise DNA. So like that's what I've been sort of head down the last 2 weeks as I've been trying to bring everything into this well, what I'm sort of thinking as an ecosystem. And I think there's a lot of these sort of mini tools that we can sort of like bring into the enterprise DNA ecosystem, which can help accelerate. So that's a really cool idea because I was also thinking about with Claude Code, how you create agents, and
Mhm.
creating the agents is actually quite annoying, and they're not always the way that you want, and you need it kind of more dynamic way. It's very rinky, like it's not like it would be great if you could just create something in a web interface that sort of laid out. You said, "Oh, I'm trying to do this," and then it sort of laid out, "Okay, well, this is the recommendation for the best agents that you should have." One click creates them all, gives you a download file. You put it into wherever on your computer, and then they go back up into Claude Code. So like just little things like that.
Yeah, yeah, and there's now that specification that OpenAI has that I forget what it's called. It's called like agents.md.
Yeah.
That is the kind of it's not quite at the level of MCP in terms of acceptance, but
Mm,
it's kind of the agent specification that's supposed to work across platforms. And
mm,
yeah, you can write an app to do that and then just have it distribute that agents MD file to the projects you specify. And
mm,
then desktop commander will just take that file and just copy it to the proper slots. It's like, yeah, it's
mm.
so easy now. And the um the LMs are getting so good at doing this.
Yeah.
I wrote about a
It,
thousand lines of code for that MCP server, and it it was almost right, almost that right out of the box. I mean, there was just a little bit
mm,
of debug that we had
yeah.
to do on the info capture sheet, and
Mm,
it just ran. It was incredible.
yeah. And we've always said this as well. Like every upgrade of the model, it just gets progressive. It just gets better. There's less errors. Like compared to 12 months ago, the error rate is so much lower. I mean, I can get so much further. Like, we're talking weeks ahead of like what it used to take, 12 months ago. And the you've got to expect the models are going to keep getting better. Maybe not at the speed we've seen, but you've got to think that they might do. They're going to get better. No doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to that, genic loop thing in terms of there's the end condition, there's observability.
Mm,
And if you've got both of those things, even hallucinations are not an issue because, yeah, okay, it hallucinates, but what it'll do is if it hallucinates, it'll fail the line by line match test and it'll just send
mm,
it back till the point where it stops hallucinating.
yeah.
And the other thing that I did in my MCP server is I had it basically save a copy of the code and the inputs and outputs so that I could run the M code separate from anything that the LLM did to make sure that it wasn't lying to me on the match. So what I
Uh,
have in the custom instructions is do not under any circumstances use JavaScript or any language other than M.
mm,
Because what I found originally was if it ran into trouble, it would start running it in Python or JavaScript and then report it as M. And
mm,
so I've told it explicitly not to do that. But then what I've also got is an observability condition where I can go back and confirm that yes, what it told me is a line by line match actually is based on the M code that it created.
mm, mm.
And
It's so interesting listening to you say that because like that just how important is validation, isn't it? Like yes, everything is getting accelerated and sped up, but I don't think it removes the need for human validation like continuously. You know, it's a it's a really fascinating dynamic because I'm seeing exactly the same thing in what I'm doing. Like I'm seeing more need for validation than ever. but it's still I'm able to move faster, like I'm able to do a lot more. So it's kind of opposed to the AI is going to take all your jobs type of thing. Like I'm all I'm seeing is just more need to validate. It's like a combination. It's a combination of human and AI that is absolutely the future. But I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still completely convinced that we're right in the sense that the human role is at the beginning and the end primarily. It's in
Mm,
there's a huge human role in the planning and the prompting and the context management and setting the end condition, the observability conditions. There's kind of a watchfulness that you have to do in the middle that, what I typically don't just go to the movie and let my AI run. But what I
mm,
did on this one was I worked with it, I watched it execute. There was one point where I stopped it and said, whoa, 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 you're heading into a ditch here. Like be aware of this,
mm.
be aware of this and factor this into the context. And then what I did is I basically worked through together and kind of observed it and corrected it for one city. And then once we had the one city working right, I just said,
Mm,
okay, pick 15 other cities and run those the exact same way.
mm,
And that's when I left for the movies. And that I think there is that kind of I was thinking of like the shop foreman, that you're watching the workers on the assembly line, and if
mm.
they start doing something crazy, you say, whoa, whoa, stop the line. You correct it, start the line again, and then once you've got those kinks worked out, then you can just run the line, as long as you
Digital
want.
workers. You're managing digital workers.
Yeah, yeah, and it's spectacular. As I say, the thing I did, the last couple of days, it would have taken me months to do that, you know, 2 years ago. I mean, it
Wow.
was a
Are you,
huge
is,
amount of.
is Playwright, are you using Playwright to do the agentic loop, like to sort of watch the
I've
output,
been using
match it,
Puppeteer,
puppeteer?
and it's really interesting because Puppeteer is now considered to be, the third best of those that Google came out with a native Chrome version there's Chrome DevTools MCP that is now considered the best for that agentic loop evaluation. Playwright
Mm,
is kind of the next best, and then Puppeteer. But even for my purpose, Puppeteer works great. But I think I'm gonna convert over to the Google MCP DevTools because
mm,
I've seen some analyses where it's got a few more tools and it takes up less context.
right.
Um, one
Yes.
thing that I found is super helpful. I don't know if you've done it yet, but Claude Code now has this ability to set a custom status bar,
Oh,
and
no.
it's really easy. It takes you like 5 minutes to configure it. And now what you
Yeah.
can do is you can watch all the critical indicators. So how much context you've burned, how much context you have left, what model you're using, what directory you're in, what your Git status is. All that is just right on the bottom line. And so that as you
Mm,
run and start to get, you see the context start to dwindle, you can
yeah.
make the decision about do I want to compress, compact? Do I want to um, start a new conversation? Do I want to take some of the MCP tools off my stack to give it more context? It's kind of like having a heads up display in your car that just
Mm.
displays like all the status of the critical systems, right in front of you. It's really nice.
Yeah, that is nice. I haven't got as deep or technical about that stuff. Like, I I'll tell you how I'm using it. I've really refined how I've used it over the past couple of weeks. One of the things I try to do now before I sit down in front of my IDE with all of my Claude codes is I actually try to write down a list of like 10 to 20 things that I want to do. I try get in my mind all of the things I want to do. And then what I do, if they're on different parts of the app, I open up maybe I don't know, maybe 10 different modules, and then I just like voice type my list. I like do all of my lists, and then I just get them all working at the same time. Some I might be using Claude Code, some I might be using Cursor, like GPT-5 Max inside of Cursor. And I find like I'm more productive lining up everything that I want to do and just doing them all in one go than uh, than sitting in front of my computer and just trying to think, like work through my app and think, oh, get to one thing and then try and fix that. Get to one thing and try and fix that and then think of the next thing. Like I'm finding it's just far superior in terms of productivity, like actually getting things done. I'm sure I could probably do that better as well. Like maybe I could actually just put them in one sheet and then get one module to just like iterate through each different one. I probably could. Um, it's just I haven't got that technical. Like that's kind of the depth that I've got to. I've if I in the context thing, I understand a little bit about the context, but not nowhere near as much as you, I don't think. Like what I do is that if I finish something on an app on a feature in my app, I just clear the conversation straight away and I just like start a new conversation. So
Right.
that's kind of the depth to how I manage it. Like there's just nothing technical about it. But anyway, that's just how I've been. I mean, I guess that's my little would be my little tip about how I do it, how I've found in the last few weeks. It's because you have this unlimited amount of compute now, really, if you think about it. Like I saw someone else kind of say this as well on a LinkedIn post. They were like, "Man, I just feel like I could use more of the compute. I don't know all this compute and I don't know how to actually access it and use it. I feel like I'm missing out on 90% of what I could be doing." And that's how I feel too. But what I try to do is I try to line up lots of things on these various apps that I'm working on, and I just go boom, 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 and I just try and use my unlimited compute as much as I can, and then I'm on the next one, and then I'm doing the same sort of thing. So I don't know. I don't know. That's kind of my workflow. How does that resonate with you?
I mean, completely in the sense that, I've for years have been kind of, standing on the street corner saying, for data analysis, you absolutely need to do a comprehensive analysis plan before you
Mm,
sit down and do any visualization, any analysis. And
mm,
I think that foundation has gotten even more important in AI that,
yeah.
because basically what that does, that gives AI kind of full vision into what you want to accomplish. And it's almost like having like a multi-page prompt. And so the fact that you can take that and say, okay, here's my data, here's my analysis plan, go implement the analysis, do it. And
Mm,
it'll for the most part, it'll just go ahead and write, whether it's Python or R or, Julia or whatever you're using for your data analysis, it'll
mm,
just write the code. And if you give it a good analysis plan, um, and it was interesting because that's really where, I was kind of talking again with the Plotly folks that, once you've got the link into the app and you've got the ability to analyze the result, you just say, here's my plan, go implement it, and until you get this result, keep working on it. And
mm,
unless you run out of context, it'll just do it for you. And then you just at the end you just say, okay, let me just make sure that it adhered to the requirements and didn't lie about where it was getting this stuff, and confirm that it matches the stop condition. And it, it's just I every time it works, I just am kind of marveling at the fact that science fiction is here. It's
yeah.
it's you probably have the same reaction when you give it the specs for an app, you send these agents out, and they come back, and it's like, okay, we're done.
Yeah. I I haven't worked on like a brand new app for a few months, so I haven't been able to utilize it from like a standing start. I'm so sort of far along in a lot of the apps that I'm updating at the moment that it's not like I can just go and do that in a lot of cases. So I use my technique that I just mentioned. But I really want to try out what you're describing, just really line everything up and then just get it to iterate with the MCP tools, using Puppeteer or Playwright or whatever,
Yeah.
to go and meet the end state that I want. I have a couple of ideas that I'm sort of working on, that I'm thinking about, that I might do that on, because I think that's going to become a real skill. And also, and in saying that, I think there's actually a way that, there's an app that we built called App Idea Engine, and it sort of was we created it like 6 months ago, and basically it creates these PRD documents for you that kind of like outline all that. But I think we could take that one step further, where we could actually basically give you the plan. Like I think you could create an app that just gives people plans that they can put into Claude Code now. Like that's what I'm thinking.
Mhm.
And so that was an idea that I had like sort of last week or so, is that we could really enhance that. We could really enhance it around that. So I'm gonna go for that. I'm gonna really go for that, and then use that technique to do exactly that.
As funny as you're talking, I again, going back to Nate's videos, he had one last week where he basically used this loop to have Claude code Slack code basically, yeah, right here. Claude 4.5 built Slack in 30 hours straight. And he talks about, he has this video where he basically had Claude Code build a clone of Slack for him like overnight. And and it works.
So yeah, so just so I get this right, so to set it off for 30 hours, right? If that is actually true, he's just using like a vision model to go and check the next iteration, the next iteration, the next iteration with Playwright MCP or Puppeteer or whatever. Um, and then, but you have to give the image of every single page inside of Slack, right? Or like the
Well, he
outline
gives
of every single
crazy
page.
specific prompts. I
Yeah,
mean,
right.
it's not like he's saying, build Slack and it just does it. It's like
Yeah.
his prompts are incredibly precise and specific.
Yep.
Um, and what he did there was another great example where he took the new Excel and PowerPoint capabilities in Claude and basically gave it kind of the type of prompt you would give like in making a McKinsey type, deck for a board. And
Right.
the results are remarkable. I mean,
Mm.
I did I did kind of a simplified version of that when it first came out. And the PowerPoints I got were pretty good, on the videos I showed. But if you kind of adopt his, really rigorous prompting strategy and really give
Mhm.
it that context up front, you can get absolutely professional looking decks just
Mm.
created from a prompt and data. And in
Yeah.
many cases, you can have it go out and get the data for you.
Yeah. God, it's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, the business models of the consulting firms are just absolutely going to have to change, aren't they? I mean, I think that the writing's been on the wall for 18 months now, but you know, if you're able to do that, I mean, that's what they charge money, like obscene amounts of money for, right? Like if you're able to do that just with AI, I mean, they're gonna have to change. I mean, they're generally pretty smart people, so I think that they will figure it out. But that business model is that old business model is pretty much toast, I think.
Well, your point about, OpenAI kind of figuring out how to make money in this is they now have a consulting arm that does
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
You can go to OpenAI, hand them your credit card and basically say, do this for me, and they'll do it.
Mm.
I mean, that, but there's so much good information out there on how to do it yourself,
Yeah.
including, a lot of stuff, going back to, what you've been touting for the last 2 years, it's really getting to the point now where the models are so good and the tools they call are so good that those workflows you talk about are accessible now to you know people so much easier even than they were a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just gonna get easier too. Voice
Yeah.
activated, various different things. The one thing that I just don't see any stopping at the moment. And it has been like highlighted a few times in the last couple of years, but per seat pricing on software, whew, it's going to be a tough sell pretty soon.
Yeah.
So like even today, like, you know, if you can, I mean, Slack, for example, they sell on a per seat pricing, you know. Um, I mean, I'm sure I don't know, like maybe Salesforce has integrated it into their the rest of their suite, but there's going to be some pricing changes there. There absolutely is, because if you can replicate a software and then host it somewhere, you know, why the hell are you? I mean, there is other arguments like, you know, uptime and security and all this kind of stuff, but you know, like there's going to be solutions for that too. You know, I think there absolutely will be.
Did you see Demis Hassabis's group at Google and DeepMind just released a security tool, an AI
Oh,
security
okay.
tool that will go
Okay.
through and is actually now patching like huge huge security holes right through Git, that
Yeah.
it's scanning code bases, it's analyzing, and it's writing and applying the patches. I mean, that the security, part of it is advancing just as fast, I think, or almost as fast as the coding side. And on the
Mm,
MCP side, I've connected with a guy named James Taylor who works for a firm called MCP Manager, and
mm,
they've got all these tools that MCP gateways and kind of security protocols that are for kind of locking down your and containerizing your MCP servers in a secure way. And you know
mm,
it it's it's getting easier and easier to do. And I'm kind of thrilled. We talk about kind of, is LinkedIn still worth interacting on? And it's like, for me, to find people like that and to kind of get introduced to the work they're doing, it's
mm,
invaluable. For all the
mm,
the nonsense that you kind of deal with the algorithm and all that. It's like
mm,
just finding those people, the Maxim Minotzkas and the James Taylors, and the people kind of doing stuff around the world that is making a huge difference in these workflows is for me is really worth the time.
yeah. God, the amount of garbage about security you had to wade through, you know, for the last year is it's security is not some black box that cannot be solved, you know. Like again, it's just sort of lacked imagination, I felt. But anyway, like sometimes I listen back to our podcast and I think, man, I talk like an old man, just a cranky old man getting annoyed at everything. Um, so
It's like that
I've got
old
to
man shouts at cloud meme.
I know. I've got to not get too wound up about trivial little things. But yeah, anyway, like, yeah, I mean, security is a thing, obviously, you know, and there's always going to be concerns and things that you need to, but the thought that that wouldn't be something that could be solved in a similar nature to how like everything else is being slowly and progressively solved with AI, I think just lacked a little bit of imagination. And yeah, like things are coming on stream, and I'm sure they will come on stream. It's a great opportunity. It's a great business opportunity for those who want to like jump. Security is more important now than it ever was. Like, you know, so
Well, I think it's exactly what people are doing, which is, okay, so there are people like me who are putting out all this content about, MCP and great things you can do with it. And people say, what about security? How would you implement this in an enterprise, level? And I'm like, I don't really know. It's like I've got how I do it in an individual level, but then what people have realized, people like, this MCP manager group, is there's a huge demand for this if you can do it securely. And so they're saying, okay, we've got products, we've got, services and protocols for how to do that. And
mm,
I'm sure they're not the only ones. And that and even OpenAI and what they released yesterday, and Google with their security tool, it's like they're already basically running down that problem of making it implementable at the enterprise level in a fairly painless way. And it's not there
mm,
yet, but there's no doubt it's going to get there.
yeah. There is an entirely new economy that is getting created on top of AI. Like that's the thing that I think you and I have always like been totally aligned on, is how many new opportunities are appearing and that we're seeing, you know, being so deep into this, right? Like There's so many new things layered on top of that AI layer that you can offer, that you can build, that you can create, that you can sell, like and you can create services around, and you can implement for people. Like this, it's just insane when you get into it. Absolutely insane. I mean, you still have the same challenges like any other business, like securing customers and selling to customers and this kind of stuff. But in terms of just like opportunity out there, there's an entirely new layer in the economy, the AI layer that you can build on top of and that you can create businesses on top of. It's crazy. And that's just, I mean, when you say like MCP manager, I mean, that wasn't even a thing like 12 months ago.
Right.
Like, it wasn't even a business opportunity. And now there's like this whole security business you could build on top of MCP. You know, it's just one micro example of like tons of things everywhere.
Well, yeah, I mean, I mean, I think you're right. It's a huge opportunity, but it's also the the time cycle of opportunity is getting tighter and tighter in the sense that smart people are recognizing, okay, this is a gap and I can fill this gap. But then what's
Yeah.
also happening is the Google DeepMinds and the OpenAIs are also recognizing that,
Yeah.
hey, this is a gap and it's a barrier to people using our services. So
Yeah.
we need to fill it too. And so, a lot of the stories I read coming out of the Dev Day yesterday were, OpenAI just killed, Zapier and N8N and, all
Mm.
these kind of smaller agentic companies. And I don't think that's literally true at this point because it's not to the level of development and advancement that all those apps that have been doing it,
Mm.
for years or decades, are at. But it does kind of highlight the danger in terms of, if you're a firm and you're kind of banking on, okay, we're building this agent tool that you can be out ahead, and then OpenAI or DeepMind just drops a free tool that all of a sudden does what does what your company does.
Oh, 100%. I mean, one of the challenges I didn't mention was, yeah, you're going to face a lot of competition. Yes. There's no guarantee your business is going to do well. I'm just saying there is just so many opportunities out there. But I mean, competition is just going to be vicious, absolutely
Yeah.
vicious. I mean, I like I'm kind of in this startup game as well with Help Genie as well, and I'm seeing a few anecdotes there. And my partner sent me an email, a message the other day. He goes, it was like I don't know where he saw it, but it was like an email from someone in a big business, and they said, "I don't need any more pilots. I've got 20 people telling me exactly the same thing. Um, I just need someone to just do it for me, like or just like show me the returns immediately. It's kind of like, yes, okay, you're going to face a lot of competition. There is a lot of opportunity, but you're going to face a lot of competition. It's not going to be easy, but there is opportunity out there. There is so many niches within niches like out there that are appearing all the time. You know. Uh, anyway, like I'm still positive on it. I still think there's a lot of opportunity. Undoubtedly there is. You know, overvalued companies out there. There's fraudsters out there. There's a whole lot of like things that you could perceive as bubbling. But in terms of just like the economic shift around this new AI layer, there is so many damn opportunities. It is unbelievable. There is so many. Even just within an existing organization. So it doesn't even need to be some other organization. It could be like there's opportunities within every organization to build new software, for example, like everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, it's just getting easier and easier to do. It's interesting because one of the things I realized is when you jump into this, and I know you had this experience too, that if you come from a data analysis background, there are just certain things you never learned. Like, for example, I never learned Git and GitHub, you know? And so I'm actually going back now and, taking this Net Ninja course, on YouTube to just learn the stuff I should have learned, if I was, doing software development, I would have learned, a decade ago or more. And,
Mm,
kind of, and like VS Code now, I do everything in VS Code now with Claude Code, and
mm,
even some of that is some learning about that IDE that, I'd never done because I did everything in our studio and I just didn't
Mm.
have the need for kind of development. And so, you know, I think you've been 100%, 1,000% right the whole time in terms of app development is something that data analysts will ultimately need and find useful. But I think for most of us, and certainly true for me, there are some weird holes in your education that you need to fill.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, totally. And I've learned all of that, like all of that in the last year. All of that in the last year.
Yeah.
I hadn't even opened GitHub until September, October last year. I'd never even never used it. And then it was Lovable that got me into it because it was such a seamless integration. And then I kind of learned through just using Lovable what GitHub actually did and what it was. And it was like, wow, this is incredible. This is so cool. And then I moved to IDEs and then I moved to Claude Code and now I'm in a terminal. Like the progression, I just when I actually look back, it's pretty crazy. It's crazy. And then like it's interesting that you've been watching some YouTube videos and stuff. That's like for me over the last, as I sort of mentioned last time, I just go into any AI tool I can find, ChatGPT, Claude Code, Help Genie, like I Help Genie Voice I use like as a tutor. Like if I was to, I kind of feel like I know enough about GitHub now, but if I was to do that now, like that's what I'd do. I just immerse myself over like 20 hours, boom, or even less, maybe 10 hours, and try get like everything I need to know about GitHub and IDEs that way these days.
I still find like a really good book or a really good course is helpful for me because it's like you don't know what you don't know. And so
Yeah.
when you immediately jump in and just doing it,
Mm,
you can learn a ton, but you may find there are gaps that you're not aware of, you know.
mm,
And it's like, oh, I never encountered X or Y on this, and so I didn't learn it. And that I think you can develop some kind of weird blind spots if you just, for me at least, if you just jump right in. Whereas like, that Net Ninja course, like the whole course, I think you can run through in like 2 hours, but it
yeah.
gives you a really good overview of like, all the critical buckets you'll need to fill in terms of understanding. And then once you've
Mm,
got that foundation, you can just go out and start doing and messing around with it and
yeah.
kind of running your projects and learning on the fly. But I still definitely do find that initial framework, and maybe it's comes from kind of our time together, doing the videos
Mm.
for Enterprise DNA. And I still find that a really helpful foundation for me.
Yeah, I think what we learned is that everyone learns in different ways. Don't they? Like
Yeah.
everyone has a preference. Some like videos, some like reading. I've started to really like just AI immersion. Like
Mm,
just that's been one thing that I've personally really liked and really benefit from. Um, but I also, when I approach my learning now, like let's use GitHub as an example. I just don't feel like I need to go to the like absolute depths of learning every part of GitHub. I need to conceptually understand how it works, how it functions, build a mental model of like how to operate it. But I don't spend any time like learning the code, for example, of GitHub. Like, because I bet you that is what a lot of people have spent months learning and memorizing in the past. But the AI models can just like churn out code for you. Like they can just churn out the codes that you need to use within terminals or IDEs now. Um, and so it's more like the high level knowledge. I mean, we've talked about this a few times. I remember, but that's what I really focus on if I'm learning something new. Like that's what I did with
yeah.
Laravel and PHP over the last few weeks. But it's the same with anything that I'm tackling. It's kind of stay high level. You just for example, like you're building these apps with like JavaScript and other code, right? Are you getting into the weeds about the code anymore, or are you just sort of trying to stay high level? Like I really think that's a thing.
High level. Yeah. Um, it was interesting because Laravel, that he's got a really good overview course on that too. So
Yeah, right.
yeah, as you say, like everybody learns differently, but I do like the fact that there's still people out there who are providing that framework, in terms of either writing good books or
Mm.
producing good courses that, I still, even in this AI age, I find those are still hugely helpful. And you can use them in different ways. I mean, one of the things, I've been doing with a lot of my books is I put them into LM Studio and say, okay, if there's something I want to refresh, I'll just say, okay, here's this advanced chapter of a book. Give me a 15-minute podcast that I
Mm.
can, I can listen to, when I walk down to the drugstore.
Mm.
And that's super helpful. And the fidelity that LM Studio has to the original source material is really good.
Yeah.
It produces really good discussions and teaching aids based on the material you feed it. And so, whether that's videos or books or articles, that's also, I think, for me, is a really good way to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Learning is such a personal thing, isn't it? And I don't think I've ever thought that AI was sort of mutually exclusive, if that's the right word to or terminology. Like it's just a new thing. It's like an addition. It's like an addition to some things. I mean, I personally love just like immersing myself. If I need to learn something new, boom, I'll just like try layer on every AI type learning capability I can, text, voice, images, like boom, I'll try to layer it in just initially, right? But there's still, I mean, we still have a lot of people using our platform for videos. There's a lot of like YouTube's probably never been more popular. I still see books being hugely popular on LinkedIn, so people are
Yeah.
still buying books, like um
I'm buying more books than I ever do. I mean,
yeah.
I actually, I just, I've overrun my 8 shelves, and I need to get another bookcase in the office. But
The one thing about AI I will say is that I think books by default, for example, or even videos, right? They provide lasting visuals, I think, like in your mind, or yeah, like if I think back to like dense books that I've maybe read, trying to learn, like actually learn something, I can actually kind of visualize the page. I can visualize the paragraph type of thing. And AI is more like you see it and you throw it away. You see it and you throw it away. Like I can't even remember ChatGPT discussions I had yesterday, for example,
right, right.
And I think there's something there.
Oh, I absolutely do. Yeah, I'm looking at a stack of books I got right next to me. Yeah, and I can open those books, and I know pretty much to the page. And some of them will open just because of use, will open almost by themselves to the chapters that I go to most often. Yeah,
Mm,
and there's a visual picture I have. Okay, in this book, this is, 3/4 of the way through the book, and I can almost open to the page most of the time.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's quite fascinating.